I've worked the property room 11 years, long enough to know what the night is for. The night isn't for solving cases. It's for making sure yesterday stays where yesterday belongs. Days are in till you ache. Deputies coming off shift with bags to log, everybody wanting a signature so they can go home. You don't think on days. You process. The overnight is when the room belongs to the room, when you pull the retention audits and walk the shelves case by case, matching the tag to the record. Scan. Beep. Initial. Move on. I lifted the scanner off its cradle. Beside it, coffee going cold in a paper cup. Beside that, the logbook, open to tonight's page in my own handwriting. Behind me, the wall clock, analog, loud in a room this quiet, the only thing in here that ever moves on its own. That scanner is the whole job. One beep meant the world still made sense. 2 beeps meant somebody had made a mistake. In 11 years, it had never meant anything else. The night it started, the clock read 22:48 when the box came down. I'd printed the quarterly retention list at the top of my shift cases, past their hold date. Boxes legal has to clear before we archive them. 41 boxes. I'd worked through 9. Box 10 was a 1994 case, and it wasn't where the log said. That happens. Boxes migrate. So I walked the aisle and found it 2 rows over, behind a 1996 burglary. Cardboard, the old heavy stock. Case number faded, but legible. And the tamper seal across the lid intact. That red and white tape that splits its own printing if you peel it, so no one can ever lie about whether a box has been opened. I carried it to the counter and set it under the light. That's the part I keep coming back to. There was no sign, no flicker in the tubes beyond the one that always ticks. Just a box, and a clock reading 22:48, and me reaching for the scanner, because that's the next step. The label gave a case number, a year, and 3 words. Witness statement sealed. I logged the pull number, time, initials, and opened the case on the terminal to confirm what I was holding before it went in the review stack. And I want to be careful here, because the way I tell it makes it sound like I understood. I didn't. At 22:48, I was a man doing inventory. The file was thin. A single vehicle fatality on a county road, ruled an accident. Closed. 1 witness statement attached. Logged, sealed. Never unsealed. Custody chain, clean and short. The statement had a witness of record, a name in the signature field. It was my name. I read it the way you read your own name, where it doesn't belong. Half a second of nothing. Your eyes sliding off because the brain files it as coincidence before the thought even finishes. There are 6 of us with my last name in this county. So I did the first thing anyone does. I decided it was a different man. I checked the middle initial. Mine. I checked the witness's address of record. It was the house I grew up in. My parents' place, on a road that doesn't carry that name anymore, because the county renumbered the rurals in '09. The file was dated 1994. I did the subtraction twice, because that's what you do. In 1994, I was 11 years old. An 11-year-old doesn't become a sworn witness of record. Whatever I was looking at, it had stopped being a typo. The clock read 23:19. I'd been standing there half an hour without feeling it move, and I noticed time, and it's most of what the job is. Here's what a reasonable man does. He blames the digitization. When the county scanned these old files, they were understaffed and working from paper already a decade rotten. Names got dropped into wrong fields all the time. A clerk in 2011 fat-fingered my name into a 1994 witness field, and the matching address was the kind of coincidence that feels enormous at midnight and vanishes by morning. Small county. Everybody's from near everybody. It was a good answer. It held. It's the answer I'd have accepted from anyone else. But a correction request means describing the discrepancy, and describing it means confirming the paper against the screen. You don't file a correction against a digitized field without checking the source. If the screen was wrong, the paper would show it. So I had a reason to look at the box that wasn't curiosity. I wasn't a man who couldn't leave it alone. I was a man following the step that came next. Except you can't open a sealed evidence box to check a typo. Breaking that seal ends the box's life as evidence a one-way door, and no overnight tech walks through it over a filing error. So I didn't. At 2319, I did the correct thing. I set the box in the review stack for legal, seal intact, and logged that the digitized witness field couldn't be verified against the sealed source. Then I picked the box up to shelve it, and I felt the weight. 11 years, your hands learn what paper in a box feels like when you tilt it. This one shifted wrong. The statement inside wasn't a page. It was thick, a stack, a long statement. The version on the screen was one page. One page, one signature, closed. I was holding a sealed box that weighed more than its own record. I set it back down. I didn't shelve it. And I opened the case narrative on the terminal, the whole thin file telling myself I only wanted the road. Which stretch of county it happened on. Whether it was near the house. Whether that was where my name had drifted in from. Some old family edge of an old wreck. The narrative gave the road. I know that road. I drove it last week. You could drive it tonight. The clock read 23:30. The box sat sealed on my counter, heavier than its record, signed by a boy of 11. The file wasn't describing somewhere that had been. It was describing somewhere that was still out there dark and empty, and exactly where the file said it would be. The narrative gave me the road, but it didn't give me why my name was on it. So at 23:34, I went looking for the one thing a witness statement always fixes, and a summary usually blurs, where the witness said he was standing. That's procedure, in its way. A witness of record has a stated position. If the file placed my 1994 witness somewhere, a kid might plausibly have been a porch, a roadside, a car passing through, then the whole thing folded back into a clerical smear, and I could file my correction and sleep. I was still trying to make it small. The narrative summary was 2 sentences. It said the vehicle left the roadway at a specific point and came to rest below the grade, and it gave the point as a mile marker. I know our mile markers. 11 years of deputies calling in locations. You build a map in your head whether you want one or not. This one sat on a county road northwest of town, a straight, fast stretch with a bad shoulder, where the land falls away toward a creek. We work wrecks out there. Not often. But it's a place things happen. A map in your head isn't verification, though. You don't certify a location off memory. So I pulled the road file on the read-only terminal and checked the marker against the current county layer. It was there. The GIS map put it right where my head said, on the northwest county road. The grade rendered in the terrain shading. The drop toward the creek drawn as a fold in the contour lines. I zoomed in until the pavement edge pixelated. The shoulder was narrow. The fall-off started close to the white line. That was the modern layer, though, and a road's history is a stack, not a snapshot. If my name had drifted in from some old version of that place, a road that used to run different, a marker that used to sit elsewhere, the older records would show it. So I peeled back through them, the way you'd verify any location you had to put your name to. Behind the GIS layer was the county plat, the hand-drawn one, scanned from the linen originals. The grade was there too, inked by some surveyor decades back. The creek a wandering blue line, the road a straight double rule across it. Same place. In the corner, the surveyor's initials and a date stamp. The plat predated the wreck by years, which meant the geography the 1994 witness described wasn't drawn to match his statement. It was already there, waiting, before anyone stood on it. Behind the plat was the maintenance file. And this is where I slowed down, because the maintenance file is where a road stops being a shape and becomes a history of what's happened to it. There were remarks on that stretch going back 30 years. Guardrail requested, twice. Shoulder flagged substandard, 3 separate inspections. The same phrase copied forward each time. Soft edge, drop off, recommend repair. A resurfacing job logged in the late 90s. And no guardrail ever installed. The request carried forward year to year, the way requests do in a county that never has the money. Every layer agreed. The marker, the grade, the drop, the bad shoulder confirmed across the modern map, the hand-drawn plat, and 30 years of maintenance remarks. 3 independent records, 3 different decades, none of them able to be the source of a clerical error in the others, all describing the identical piece of ground. This wasn't a place that used to exist and got misremembered into the file. It was a place that had never once stopped being exactly what the statement said it was, and nothing had happened there. I keep the active dispatch log in the corner of the screen out of habit. 3 medical calls earlier, all closed. A welfare check, closed. Nothing on any county road northwest of town. Nothing, anywhere. The clock read 0:25. Here's the shape of the problem I was in. I had a sealed box with a long statement inside and a 1-page summary on the screen. The screen told me almost nothing a clerk's paraphrase, typed decades late. Everything real was inside the box, behind a seal I couldn't legally break. But a sealed box isn't a closed book. Ours carry a clear evidence sleeve taped to the outside a pouch for the chain of custody form, and on the old one's a carbon of the item inventory and the statement's face page. It's there so a man can confirm what a box holds without opening it. Reading the sleeve isn't breaking the seal. Reading the sleeve is the whole reason the sleeve exists. I turned the box over under the light and found it, yellowed, the tape gone brittle. Inside, the chain of custody form, and behind it a second sheet. A carbon of the statement's first page. Faint, purple-black, the way carbons go, but legible if you tilted it into the tube. I tilted it. It was the opening. The formal preamble they used, then the witness's name, the date, the line that what followed was given freely and was true. And below the preamble, the first sentence of the statement itself, transcribed the way they did it then, first person, in the witness's own words. I read the first line. Then I stopped. Because carbons lie to your eyes, the letters go soft. A comma reads as a word, and you can build a sentence out of smudge if you want one badly enough. So I didn't trust it. I held the sleeve flatter to the light and read it a second time, letter by letter this time, the way you read a serial number you're about to key. It didn't change. The first read and the second read said the same thing. The narrative on the screen said, single vehicle. 1 car left the road. The witness, by every summary the county had, was a witness, someone who saw it from outside, from the shoulder, at a distance. That's what the word means in a file. That's what the case was closed on. The carbon said something else. The first line of the statement, in the witness's own hand, was, I was in the back of the second car. I pulled the screen summary back up and set it beside the carbon in my mind, line against line. Because 2 records this far apart need a third thing to break the tie, and I didn't have a third thing yet. I only had the 2 of them, staring. The summary. 1 vehicle, off the road, below the grade. The carbon, A witness who wasn't watching from the shoulder at all, but riding in a second car. Not beside the wreck. In it. In the back seat of a vehicle the official case did not contain. 2 documents. Same case, same box, same custody chain. One said 1 vehicle, one said 2. The seal proved the statement hadn't been touched since 1994. The summary had its own audit trail in the system. Neither had been altered. Both were internally clean. They simply could not both be true, and the one the whole county had built its record on, the one every deputy and clerk and judge had trusted for 30 years, was the thin screen summary. The one I trusted, standing there at midnight, was the carbon. The witness's own words, my own name above them. The clock read 1:10. I looked at the active log again. Still quiet. Nothing northwest of town. And for the first time all night, the quiet didn't reassure me, because the statement in that box wasn't describing a second car that had been on that road 30 years ago. It was describing one that, according to every clean record in front of me, had never been there at all. So where was it? The statement put a second car on that road. The record didn't have one. And before I did anything else, I had to be sure the record didn't have one, because the case says single vehicle, and the case file contains no trace of a second vehicle, are 2 different claims, and I'd only checked the first. A fatal wreck generates more than a narrative summary. It generates a stack. So I went into the case the way you go into a case you're about to certify, and I pulled every attachment the digitized file held, looking for the second car in any of them. The accident report itself, the primary form, 1 vehicle listed, 1 plate, 1 registered owner, 1 operator. The vehicle box for a second unit blank, not redacted, not missing, just never filled. The way you leave a field blank when there's nothing to put in it. The tow record, 1 vehicle recovered from below the grade, winched up, hauled to the county impound. 1 tow ticket, 1 storage entry. I cross-checked the impound log against it, the same vehicle logged in, held the standard period, released to the insurer months later. 1 car in, 1 car out. No second unit ever entered impound, because you can't release what was never towed, and nothing was. The supplemental, there's almost always a supplemental on a fatal, and investigators' follow-up filed days after. This one was short. It confirmed the single vehicle finding, noted the road conditions, the soft shoulder, the absence of skid consistent with a driver who never braked, and it had a diagram. A hand-drawn scene sketch, scanned crooked, the road a double line, the grade hatched, 1 rectangle for the 1 car drawn where it came to rest below the shoulder. 1 rectangle. I looked at that diagram a long time. There was room on the page for a second car. There was no second car. Every attachment agreed with every other attachment. Primary report, tow ticket, impound log, supplemental, scene diagram, 5 separate documents, generated by 4 different people over the days after the wreck, none of them able to be the source of an error in the others, all of them describing 1 vehicle and 1 vehicle only. And behind them, in the sleeve, in the witness's own hand, the 6th document. The one that said he was riding in the back of a car that the other 5 swore had never existed. The clock read 1:14. I want to be exact about what that did to me, because it's the moment the fear changed shape. Up to then, I'd been chasing an error, a wrong field, a bad scan, a source I could find and fix. But you can't call 5 internally consistent, independently authored documents an error. Error is a smudge on 1 page. This was a clean record and a clean witness statement, both intact, both trusted, describing 2 different worlds. The more I verified, the worse it got, because every verification was supposed to dissolve one side of the contradiction and instead it just made both sides more solid. So I did what I do when I can't find the error in the content. I went after the container, because if the box itself was wrong, mislabeled, swapped, reboxed from some other case down the line, then maybe the statement inside didn't belong to this case at all. Maybe the second car was real, in some other file, and it was the box that had drifted, not the world. Every box in this room carries a barcode, and every barcode ties to a record. I ran the scanner across the tag. 2 beeps. 41 times in 11 years, and every one before tonight had been a typo. This one didn't resolve. The screen held the mismatch and wouldn't clear it. The tag matched no numbering the county had ever used. Our case numbers from 1994 run a fixed pattern a year block, a sequential count, a check digit at the end that has to reconcile, or the entry rejects. I've keyed 10,000 of them. I read the pattern the way you read a phone number from your childhood. This tag didn't follow it. The block was wrong, but the scanner rejecting a number doesn't mean the number's impossible. It means the machine can't match it. So I did it by hand, the way you do when you don't trust the reader. I keyed the digits into the manual entry field myself, slow, double-checking each one against the label. Rejected. I worked the check digit by hand. The arithmetic's simple. You sum the sequence a certain way, and the last digit has to close it out. It didn't close. Against no year. I tried it as a current number, in case the tag was modern, and the box had been retagged recently. Rejected. I tried it against the state's old numbering, in case it had come in from another agency. Rejected. Then I pulled the archived numbering sheet, the bound reference that lists what sequence we were issuing in what year, going back to before the system was digital. I ran my finger down 1994. The blocks we issued that year didn't include this one. I checked the years on either side, 93 and 95, in case the box was mislabeled by a year. Neither block matched. I checked the neighboring case numbers physically shelved around where this box should have lived, pulled 2 of them, scanned them. 1 beep, 1 beep. Their tags were ours. Clean, standard. This one, sitting between them, wearing a number from no sequence the county ever issued, forward or back. It wasn't a damaged tag. Damaged, I know, a smeared digit, a torn label, still keyable by a human. This number was intact, fully legible. It just belonged to no scheme Sweetgrass County had ever made. There was one ordinary reason left, and I went straight to it, because it was the reason that would let me sleep. Boxes get repackaged. Water damage, a crushed corner. Contents moved to a fresh container with a fresh tag, while the chain of custody carries the old case forward. A repackaged box wears a newer tag than its year. That would explain everything. You confirm a repackaging against the bound inventory log, the physical one, kept on paper precisely because paper doesn't get quietly rewritten in the night. Every rebox is a line in it, signed and dated. I pulled the log and walked the 1994 pages by hand. The box had been logged once, into evidence in 1994, into the same container it was sitting in now. No rebox, no retag, no transfer between buildings. 1 line, 1 date, 1 set of initials, and nothing after it. I set the scanner beside the log and looked at the 2 of them. The scanner was right. The tag matched no format we use. The log was right. The box had never been changed. Neither one was broken. Neither record had been touched. And between them, they described a box that couldn't be an original container, never altered, wearing a number the county never made. I could put my hand flat on the lid and feel the weight of the long statement inside, and both instruments I'd trusted for 11 years agreed, by disagreeing, that the thing under my hand was not accounted for by anything the system knew how to record. The clock read 1:34. That was where the small answers ended. Clerical error, coincidence, a misscan, a swapped box. Every routine I owned for shrinking a strange thing had come back and confirmed the strangeness instead. I'd verified my way in, not out. And then the room did the thing it does. It kept working. The intake buzzer went off the outside night deposit, where a deputy leaves evidence when the window's unmanned. I hadn't heard a vehicle, but there was a bag in the pass-through, a routine DU1, blood kit and paperwork, a note asking for a rush on the lab request. Ordinary. The most ordinary thing in the world. I logged it, tagged it, scanned it. One beep. The tag matched. The world made sense for exactly as long as that one bag took. That's the part nobody tells you about a night like this. The job doesn't stop for the impossible. There's still a DUI kit to log while you're standing over a box that shouldn't exist. You process the ordinary with the same hands, and the ordinary keeps coming, and the box just sits there being wrong while you do it. I finished the DUI. I initialed the log, and I picked up the phone to dispatch, because I'd decided to do the one correct thing still available to me. Not break the seal. I hadn't, and I wasn't going to key a decision like that off carbon and a bad barcode. What I could do was flag the location. Tell dispatch there was an evidence matter concerning a mile marker northwest of town, and ask whether anything was active out there. The night dispatcher picked up. I knew her voice. She'd worked as many overnights as I had. I gave her the marker and asked if she had anything on that stretch. She checked. "Nothing," she said. "Quiet all night northwest." "Why? What have you got?" And there it was, the question I couldn't answer straight. What did I have? A carbon? A bad barcode? A name I hadn't even read yet? I said I had a records matter, a box referencing that location, and I was trying to confirm it against anything current. Current incident, or the case itself? The case, I said. A 1994 case. A pause. You're asking me about a 30-year-old wreck at 2 in the morning. I said I knew how it sounded. She wasn't unkind about it. She asked if there was a report number she should be looking at, something she could tie a query to. I gave her the case number and heard her key it. Heard her not find whatever she was expecting. "That's closed," she said. "Long closed. There's nothing live on this." I asked if she could have a unit past the marker. Just a look. On what? Not sharp. Just the wall. The one that has nothing to do with anyone doing wrong. I can't roll a car on a records question. I need something to put in the call, a complaint, a report, somebody who saw something. What's my source if a supervisor asks why there's a unit sitting on an empty county road at 2 a.m.? The source is a property tech with a bad feeling about a 1994 box. I didn't say it. It isn't a source. It isn't obstruction either. It's the system working exactly the way it's built to keeping deputies from being sent into the dark on the strength of a night shift hunch. She was right. If our positions were reversed, I'd have told her the same thing. "Look," she said, gentler. "Anything comes in from out there. I'll put a car on it fast. I promise you that. But something has to come in first." I said that was fair. I said thanks. I hung up. The clock read 1:48. The active log in the corner of the screen sat quiet, and I finally understood what I was actually waiting for. Not to solve the box. I was waiting for the log to fill in. For a call from that marker northwest of town. Because the moment it did, the statement in front of me stopped being a record of something old and became a description of something arriving. And I still hadn't read past the first line of the carbon. I still didn't know who was in the second car. I stood there with the carbon in my hand, because the first line was as far as I'd let myself go, and the first line was the easy one. I was in the back of the second car. That told me where the witness sat. It didn't tell me who else was in it, or on the road, or under the grade. The rest of the faceplate was right there behind the custody form, faint and purple and legible if I tilted it. I want to be exact about why I kept reading, since it's the closest thing to a choice I made all night. It wasn't the box I was chasing anymore. It was the marker. Dispatch had told me nothing was out there, and I believed her. And belief was no longer any comfort, because the statement wasn't describing a road that had had a wreck. It was describing one that was about to. So I read on, not to solve the impossible thing, but to learn how much of it was still ahead of me. The carbon's second paragraph gave the vehicle. The witness described the second car from the inside, the way you describe a thing you're sitting in. The color, a domestic sedan, a detail about the dash light being out on the passenger side, the specific way the back seat belt didn't retract. Small, useless, true-sounding details, the kind no clerk invents and no summary bothers to keep. I didn't take it as true. I'd learned better by then. A description isn't a fact until you match it against something. So I matched it against the only vehicle the case had, the one from the accident report, the one that got towed. Different make, different color. The car in the record was not the car in the carbon, which meant either the witness was describing a car from some other night entirely, misfiled into this statement, or he was describing a second car this case had never contained. There was no second car in the record to match against. I was reading a precise description of a vehicle the county had no evidence ever existed. The clock read 1:54. The third paragraph gave a name. I need to slow down here, because this is the part I've gone over the most, trying to find the place where I could have read it differently. The statement named the person in the front of the second car, the driver, a full name, first and last, plainly, the way a witness names someone he knew. I didn't recognize it. That was almost a relief. For a half-second, a stranger's name. No thread to me. Maybe somebody else's tragedy after all. Then the reflex kicked in. The 11-year reflex, because a name in a witness statement isn't a fact until you've checked it. A name is a claim. You verify a claim. The only thing I had to verify against was the read-only terminal, and whatever the county held. Our system ties into the basic county roles. The flat public record a property clerk is allowed to see. Names attached to addresses, to vehicle registrations, to the ordinary paper of living somewhere. I searched the name. It came back. A real person. I didn't stop there, because a name matching a name proves nothing. There are 6 of me in this county. I, of all people, know how little a name proves. So I did what I'd do to confirm any identity. I built it out, field by field, and checked whether the fields agreed with each other and with the carbon. The registration first. A vehicle registered to that name. Current. A domestic sedan. The color the carbon named. Not a different make this time the match. I read the carbon's description again, and read the registration again, and they were the same car, 30 years and a sealed seam apart. The address next, out on the northwest side of the county, past where the pavement goes bad. I pulled it against the road file, the same road as the marker, not near it, on it. The same county road, the same stretch with the soft shoulder, and the drop toward the creek, a few miles up from where the file said the second car left the road. The county tax record, because an address can be stale, and I wanted to know if the person was still there. Current. Paid this year. A living parcel. A person on it. Now. Tonight. Every field agreed. The name matched the carbon. The registration matched the carbon's car. The address matched the marker's road. The tax record said the person was there, present tense, this year. I'd run the identity the way I run every identity, expecting one field to break the chain, and instead, every field reached out into the present tense world and took the 30-year-old page by the hand. The driver of the second car, the car the record didn't have, the car 5 documents swore had never existed, was a person registered right now, tonight, to a vehicle matching the carbon, living on the road the marker sat on. The statement wasn't a memory. Memories don't come with current registrations. The clock read 2:03. I picked the phone back up. Same dispatcher. And I heard my own voice change, not louder. I've never been a louder man, but flatter. The way you get when you're trying to sound like procedure, so somebody treats your words as procedure. I gave her the name. I told her I had an evidence matter referencing this individual and the marker northwest of town, and I asked, plainly, what her nearest unit to that address was. She didn't ask me the shape of the emergency this time. A name and an address is something a dispatcher can hang a query on. I heard her working the board. Then she told me the number, and the number is the thing I'll carry. Nearest available unit was 34 miles out, 1 car covering the whole northwest sector overnight, and it was on the far side of it, past the reservoir, running a domestic that wasn't clearing fast. 34 miles of county road in the dark. She said it plain, no alarm in it, because to her, it was just a distance. The ordinary arithmetic of policing a place this big with this few people. 34 miles. I didn't say anything for a second, because I was doing the math. She wasn't. The math I had no right to be doing off a carbon and a barcode. A car on those roads at night doesn't average highway speed. Call it 40 minutes. Maybe more, with the shoulder work still flagged on that stretch. 40 minutes between the only help in the sector and a name the statement had put in a car that didn't exist. "You want me to start it that way when it clears?" she asked. "When it clears. Not now." Now there was still no call, no reason, nothing to articulate, just a property tech's flat voice over a landline about a name and a marker. She'd do what she could inside the rules, and the rules said the car finished the domestic first, because the domestic was real, and mine was a feeling. That's not her failing. There is no version of this where she's the one who failed. She's 1 car and 34 miles, and a set of rules that exist to keep people like me from moving deputies around the dark on a hunch. I told her yes. Have it start toward the address the moment it clears. Thank you. The clock read 2:08. The active log in the corner of the screen was still quiet. No call from the marker, nothing northwest. The whole sector dark and silent, and waiting on the same thing I was. And on the counter, under the light, the carbon face page lay tilted to the tube, the last block of text, still unread at the bottom, just above a signature I already knew was mine. I put my finger under the line I hadn't read, the way you steady a page you're afraid your eyes will skip, and I let myself look at the time the witness had written down. The time at the bottom of the page was written the way witnesses write a time they're sure of. Not approximate, not around. A number exact, and beside it the thing that fixed it in the witness's memory. It read 2:17 when the elevator siren sounds. The grain elevator on the edge of town runs a test siren. It's a real thing, an old thing, on a timer nobody's touched in years, a single tone that carries across the whole northwest side in the dead quiet of early morning. Everybody out that way sets their night by it without meaning to. The witness had heard it, was going to hear it, had written it down as the moment the second car left the road. The clock on my wall read 2:11. 6 minutes. I did the last of the arithmetic I had no business doing, and it came out the way I already knew it would. 34 miles on one side, 6 minutes on the other. There is no unit in the county, no driver, no road that closes 34 miles of dark shoulder in 6 minutes. The car that could help was 40 minutes from a thing that was going to happen in 6. The math wasn't cruel, it was just true. Distance and time, doing what they do, indifferent to the name on the page. And I understood, finally and completely, what the box was. Not a record of a wreck that hadn't happened yet, filed 30 years ago, sealed, shelved, audited, and pulled tonight for destruction, as if the system had been holding it all this time, waiting for the clock to catch up to the page. The impossible thing wasn't that the statement was wrong. It was that the statement was going to be right, and the only person who knew was the man who'd signed it. And the man who'd signed it was me, at 11, in a hand I'd grow into. I watched the active log. I refreshed it. Nothing northwest. I refreshed it again, the reflex now. Every few seconds, my hand on the key like it could pull a call out of the quiet. The clock ticked. The room was so still I could hear the tube ticking overhead and my own coffee-cold breath. 2:12. Refresh. Nothing. 2:13. The dispatcher had gone silent on the radio, the sector holding its ordinary emptiness, and every second of that emptiness was a second the page was still ahead of me instead of behind. There was one move left, only one. The pages I couldn't reach were behind the seal. The full statement, the rest of what the witness saw, maybe a detail that would let dispatch articulate a reason, maybe nothing. Breaking that seal would end the box as evidence forever. It's a one-way door. It destroys the only proof that any of this was ever real, the only thing that could ever, after tonight, let anyone believe a word of it. If I broke it and I was wrong, I'd have gutted a sealed case for nothing. If I broke it and I was right, I'd have destroyed the one object on earth that proved I hadn't imagined the whole night. I put both hands on the box. The seal was under my thumbs. That red and white tape that splits its own printing so no one can ever lie about it. I felt the weight of the long statement inside. 2:14. 6 minutes, gone to 4. 34 miles on the board, a name registered to a sedan on a road with a bad shoulder, and somewhere out in the dark, a siren on a timer winding toward a time that was almost here. Break it, and there's no proof, ever, for anyone. Don't break it, and the page comes true at 2:17, and I stood here with my hands on the answer and kept the tape intact. I don't know how long I held it. It felt long. The clock says it wasn't. The tape stayed whole under my thumbs. I want to tell you what I decided. I've told this to myself 100 times, and I still can't make the memory settle into a yes or a no, because the thing that happened next happened before the decision finished happening. The elevator siren started. You can't hear it from inside this building. Too far, too much concrete. But I've stood in the lot enough nights to know the exact pitch of it, and I swear I felt it more than heard it, the way you feel a truck you can't see. Or I imagined it. I've stopped being able to tell. The clock read 2:17, and the radio broke squelch. Priority traffic. The dispatcher's voice, sharp now, the flatness gone, calling a unit toward a single vehicle rollover northwest of town. The marker, the grade, the drop toward the creek. Requesting the nearest available, which was 34 miles out and starting to move, 40 minutes from a thing that was already done. I stood behind the counter with my hands on the box and the tape still whole beneath them. I never read the pages inside. The seal is intact. It's intact right now, in the review stack where the box has sat since that night, because I logged it back, and I have never touched it again, and legal cleared it for archive without ever opening it, because on paper, There was nothing to open a closed 1994 case, one witness, filed and done. The active log filled in the way it always does, after. A rollover. One vehicle, one fatality. The name matched. The road matched. The car matched. Down to the color. Everything the carbon said, arriving in the present tense, 30 minutes to a page written before I could write. They ruled it a single vehicle accident. There was no second car. There's never been any evidence of a second car, except the statement of a witness who was in the back of it, sealed, unread, wearing a barcode from no year, in a box that was never repackaged, signed in my own hand, at an age when I couldn't have held the pen. I still work the night desk. I still pull the retention audits. I still scan the boxes and match the tags and initial the log because the work still has to be done, and I'm still the one who does it. 1 beep. The world makes sense. 2 beeps. Somebody made a mistake. But I don't reach for the scanner the way I used to. I check the wall clock first now, every box, before I touch it. I read the year on the label, and I look at the time and I do a small piece of arithmetic I never used to do, the only one that matters to me now. I check how far ahead of me the page is,